Commodity TV live from the Mines and Money in London 2022, and we have now here a very special guest, Mike Child from Condor Gold. Mark, how are you doing?
Well, thanks. Little jet lag, came in yesterday from the States.
Oh, then welcome to London, back to England. So you are active in Nicaragua at your La India project, and you recently brought out a feasibility study. Can you give us some numbers on this?
Yes, certainly. We produced a feasibility study which filed on CEDAR in October, sometimes known as a bankable feasibility study. That is on the single Landia open pit, which has a resource of 900,000 ounces, and the reserves about just over 600,000 ounces, and the production is 82,000 ounces of gold a year out of the reserve, out of the single pit. The upfront capex is only $108 million US, including 15% contingencies. That's all brand new equipment, attractive IRRs. And we can expand that reserve case by adding in 2 high-grade feeder pits to 120,000 ounces of gold a year. And then if we add the underground of 1.2 million ounces, we can expand it to 150,000 ounces of gold a year. So we're delighted to have that out, and it's another major de-risk for the project.
So these capital costs, does this include the mill that you already have on the ground?
Yes, we've taken that into account. So the sunk costs that we have are a mill of $6.5 million US, which is in Nicaragua, and we bought all the surface rights for $4.2 million. So this $105 million is in addition to that.
Okay. So recently you announced that you would like to sell the Nicaraguan assets. So what is this all about? What's the background and the reason for this?
That's a good question. We agonized over this decision because our strategy so far has been to construct and operate a mill, with stage 1 being over 100,000, stage 2 taking it to 150,000. And we've looked at the market conditions and said, now that the project's construction ready, it's got the permits, it's got the mill, it's done the bankable feasibility study, it's got all the land, it's really ready to be constructed. Is it the best interest to go through a construction phase for 18 months as a single asset company in a single jurisdiction, and then have that equity shareholder dilution that would come with a construction finance and the potential construction risk of any delays? Or is it better to try and see if we can sell the assets of the company? And the conclusion that we've come to as a board of directors is actually to try and sell the assets.
Okay, so are there already interested parties?
Yes, we've signed an engagement with Hanneman Partners, an investment bank in the UK. And I think I can say they've sent out teasers to about 80 different prospective buyers. That's just a 6-page flyer to introduce the project.
Okay.
And then we're going under confidentiality agreement with half a dozen. And people have it's a proper process. So there's a stage 1 close and a stage 2 close on the process. I don't want to go into the timetable because there's Christmas coming up and so forth, but it's a very, very attractive project.
Okay. So when you sell the assets, does this mean shareholders will get a kind of special dividend or something like that?
Yes. Well, the board will then have to make a decision what they do with the cash. Say the assets get sold and there's $200 million in cash. What do we do? Do we? There'll be a few options: share buybacks, pay it all out in dividend, pay out 80%, keep 20%, and I think that's going to be for the board, and particularly the major shareholder Jim Mellon, who's got 20% shortly, on how best to give that cash back to the shareholders.
So then you are also working on a financing. That
Yes.
means what comes after the selling? Do you have an eye on new assets, or what are the plans?
Well, the financing we announced yesterday, so that's fresh news. I just touch on that. What we've done is the major shareholders putting up £1 million by way of a unsecured convertible loan note, and all the shareholders are being offered 1 share for every 6 shares that they hold. So it's like a rights issue or open offer in the UK, and that's the fairest way to finance a company forward. We thought that quite often we get criticised for doing a placement, and then the retail investor says, "Why haven't you included me?"
Yeah.
So we think now that we've announced a sale, it's done at a good discount. It's very attractive, 1 for 6 at 15 pence, and I just encourage all the shareholders to take that up, because the sale will be, I hope, and market conditions obviously depend on this, but it gets sold for considerably higher than the price that they'll take up their rights entitlement. So we thought it was a good idea to treat all shareholders equally and give them preemptive rights as we had the company well financed during the sales process, because the sales process could take a few months, it could take 6 months. We don't know.
And what does then come afterwards? So new assets, new projects in Nicaragua, outside of Nicaragua. What do you have in mind?
I think it's most likely that a big proportion of the cash will get returned to shareholders, if not all the cash to shareholders.
Okay, good. To summarize everything, what are the catalysts or milestones for the next months? What would you say?
Well, the main thing is now this announcement that we're looking to sell the assets, and it's interesting when you put an announcement out, you get a lot of inbound inquiries. I've just had a meeting with a mining company here this morning saying, oh, now that you're selling that, will you look at these assets in South America and put it into the company? So although we're looking to sell the assets, you never know quite what comes out. The main thing for me as quite a big shareholder in the company is a 1 and 1 makes 10. But the focus is on selling the assets, but you never quite know what will happen.
Sounds interesting, and we will be surprised what will come after the selling.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Mark, for your time. Yeah, that was Mike Child, from the CEO from Condor Gold, live here from the Mines and Money in London. You heard it. He would like to sell his assets and maybe put out a special dividend for the shareholders. I would say do your own research, check out the company, and bye-bye from London.